Hey, it's Celia on the record with members of Real Estate who just played in our Sonic Cathedral. Welcome back to Nashville, guys. Martin, Alex.
Hi.
Thank you.
Good to be back.
It is a homecoming a bit because you were here recording this record, Daniel, and that's been a little bit of time since, but you're stopping through on tour.
It was our home for a week and a half last year. Yeah.
But we spend a lot of time talking about Nashville whenever we talk about this record, and this is the first time that we've been back to the city since we made it here, so it does feel there's a little bit of an emotional element to coming back, for sure. It feels good.
Yeah. Well, it's special to us that you chose to make it here. You worked with Daniel Tashin on Music Row, which a lot of people think is just an experience you have if you're like a commercial country artist. Do you have any memories of being in that space and working with Daniel you'd want to share with a largely Nashville audience?
Let me first say we hope to become commercial country artists.
That is the goal. Okay, on the record.
But no, it was an incredible place to work, for sure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. Didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, honestly. And then you walk in, and I mean, I had kind of done a small amount of research, but it all came together like 3 weeks before we showed up. Like this, we were kind of, the studio was sort of up in the air, like where we were actually going to be working. So it was incredible working there, and sort of being in almost like a living museum, and obviously working with Daniel was also great. You know, he's awesome. So yeah, it was a really special experience.
Yeah, we recorded in RCA Studio A, which your Nashville, listeners and audience will know is just extraordinary with such a rich history, and that was just very. It's funny because like, it's almost like. We're just so lucky we got to make this Nashville record. We wanted to work with Daniel, and it made sense because he's such a Nashville producer, and he was like, yeah, we'll work. There's a million studios. We'll work somewhere, but we've made records in New York and LA and Chicago, and it's just kind of like, we didn't set out to be like, we got to make our Nashville record like some people do, but it's just like, kind of like, you gotta, and so we got to do that.
It was, Daniel came first. We could have ended up in New York or whatever, but he was like, why don't you come here? And it sounded fun to us.
Yeah. Knocked it off the list. Well, yeah. I love that. And you're right. It's hallowed ground there. Like, did you feel the vibes in the room? Like, was recording the process different? And we've talked about this record and how quickly you did it, and like you didn't obsess over it. So maybe that was a function too of just getting these songs tight before you got here. But did you feel any sort of spirit of the room change? I'm maybe being too romantic about Nashville.
No, I think it's impossible not to, honestly, in that place. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, I can sense that there might have been some history at some point. Like, it's the type of place, like it's the type of studio, not just for the history of country music and all sorts of other music that's been recorded there over the years, but like when I was like a little kid and didn't have a sense of what it was like to be in a band, and I would picture a professional recording studio, this place is what it looks like. I mean, it's massive. It's got like parquet floors. You could fit a whole orchestra in there. Like, it kind of, I don't think we've been in some nice studios, but nothing at this level or to
nothing
this
that like the nicest studios we've been in have also been sort of, in a way, like homespun, like like the Wilco Loft is like, we were lucky enough to record there, and it was great and amazing, but it's not like a professional studio like Alex was saying, like you see in the movies, with like the glass and the control room with like all the cool gear and everything. And yeah, it was I mean, it felt great. It was like we were also really ready to, we were like, I felt like we walked in. If we hadn't been as well rehearsed as we were, and just sort of like it could have been overwhelming, but we sort of, I don't know, we kind of were able to meet the occasion. I don't know, it was great.
It is kind of funny though, because we say this a lot, like working with a like a really amazing sort of like A-level Nashville team, and us coming from our like homespun indie rock background, and we were doing like, most of 2 songs a day really at that kind of clip, like not completely done, but like getting significant amounts of about 2 songs a day done, which is pretty speedy for like where we're coming from. And then like the folks in the studio with us, Daniel and the great engineering team, were like, isn't it great to go so slow? Like, and we're like, wow, we're really in Nashville now, like it was pretty cool. So that definitely affected the process as well, for sure.
Well, and there was a contrast. You told me for the 2020 record, right? Like you had spent like a year and a half, like off and on recording and getting everything just right. So it was really kind of a switching gears for this, with some time past too, and some solo efforts in between.
Yeah. It was almost a kind of a reaction to that, like, I mean, it's just a different way of doing it. And that was intentional also, like taking, spread out over the course of a year, about 2 months, total. It felt like a long time, and we like were writing and then going back in and recording more, and like really kind of layering it slowly, and this was like, let's not do that this time. And we've made records this way before, you know, where it's like we write the songs, we're ready to record, we go in and we spend 2 weeks, and like it just, yeah, it A, as a reaction to that, and B, like just as like a, it just works better with our lifestyle now, not to like spend too long in the studio. But yeah, it was I definitely prefer doing it that way. It feels
the faster
good.
clip.
Yeah, like not being able to think too much, you know, is good.
Well, you told me that about the songs from the get-go. You're like, it was an intention to write a simple song, sort of get back to something you might have grown as a songwriter since you started with Real Estate, but like you wanted to go back to basics in a way, and you said this might be the most brilliant record we've ever made because of the simplicity. How do you feel like
I said that? No, but yes,
I said that.
I mean, and now that these songs are resonating with folks, you know, these months since it's been released, how are you feeling about that? About that reception of the sound of Daniel?
I mean, we're very. It seems like people like it, so that's good. I mean, we're really happy with it. But yeah, it's true. Like the idea of making a simple album of like simple songs was very appealing to me. Yeah, it was definitely the intention.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, in some ways, I just feel like we've been searching for maturity since our first record, which had like a blissful naivety to it. But then all of a sudden, you're like, I don't know, like there's this sort of like exterior model of like band in the world, like you're supposed to mature, and we in some ways internalized that in a way that was like, we need to add more, the writing needs to get more complex, we need to have like more dense arrangements, we need to, in the case of the last record, spend a whole day talking about why it's time to record keyboards, you know. And I think that what we, as a reaction to that, we sort of found on this one that it's like, you actually can, there's a type of maturity in like stripping things back and taking stock of like the most sort of elemental parts of the music and focusing on those, and like not having, you know, anything be overstuffed or overblown, which isn't to say we won't make another record like that, but it's kind of fun to play in the sandbox of like trying different stuff out.
To overcorrect again would not be a bad idea, because no matter the sound, Real Estate sounds good, but blissful, would you say blissful naivete? That's so beautiful. I mean, your debut record is one of my favorites. It reminds me of the place and time, but it holds up. And if that's
I mean,
naive,
that was like recorded in like apartments and like our friends like bedroom with like a snake running up to his attic, and we like, he was at college and we were like calling his mom being like, where is he? We need to finish the record, you know, like that was really that process. So that's
different. To RCA Studio
Yeah,
A.
it's pretty different.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But it sounds similar. I mentioned this before. I feel like it is. There's a through line there, and it's very breezy. Like here we are in the summer. At the time we're recording this, you released the record in the winter, but this is like head bobby summer music for me and other people I've sourced. My huge panel. Does it feel good to tour these songs right about now and watch people bobbing their heads to these songs?
Yeah. We got to play outside in Austin last week, and it felt good. It's actually like I think the first time we've played these songs in an outdoor setting, which I always like playing outside. But I don't know, it seems to fit, I guess. We could put a record I think there's something about our music and like people, maybe this is true of other bands as well, like it doesn't matter really what season we put the record out. People are like, this is perfect music for like the fall or whatever. Like but it does seem like we do get the breezy thing a lot, which is good. I mean, you know,
I like summer personally.
I love summer.
I'm happy to evoke
You're
it.
good with this.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how awesome the rollout was with this record, with all the like Daniel lore and mythology. You know, like, do you have some favorite Daniels now that you've been through that big push? Aside from Daniel Teshin, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, we just like, really were leaning into. I guess the whole thing of having fun, writing and then recording this record has just been a really fun process, and like not overthinking and taking things too seriously, and then doing a bunch of silly stuff with promoting the record, and leaning into the Daniel thing. Mystic Dan,
Kentucky Derby winner.
Yeah.
Oh, God, foretold.
We knew.
We knew. That's why we want
to say officially here that is who the record was named for.
Okay,
we
knew. Mystic Dan. Okay.
Yeah,
we knew.
Yeah.
And yes, so many good Dans out there.
Well,
You gotta go with a non.
that was a good. He was a good perspective horse even then. You know, he didn't just materialize. We pay attention to these things, so we were fans.
But you had a
play the
Dan's only
ponies.
show. Like you packed people in. That felt so elitist and so hilarious.
Daniel's only.
I love that.
It was, for the record, it was a pretty small room. But
and you allowed like Danielle.
It was.
We allowed fake
and,
IDs
and you
as
got
well.
a +1, and we encouraged fake ID making, which a couple people
Oh
did.
gosh, fun.
Which was cool, and then had us sign their fake IDs. So we're all going to be arrested
It's
now.
just too much fun. Honestly, you guys need to calm down. You're having too much fun as a band. This many years on, this many albums in.
I think that's the secret.
we need this maturity that you're
We've
alluding
taken
to.
enough brooding photos in front of like chain link fences. So
Now
time
you're
to
on
move
Lower
forward.
Broadway, baby.
Yeah,
We love it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to Nashville. As we said, I could talk forever about this record. Anything else you'd like to share about the recording of Daniel since you're back in this place? If you feel it, the memories just coming up.
I just it struck me as we were performing that Daniel Tashian. One of my favorite moments in real estate studio history is he wrote the backup kind of call and response thing in Water Underground, which to me really like completes the song. And it was like we'd been working on it a day, and one day, it was the first day in the studio we were working on it, and he came in day 2 and he was like, let's do this part right now. Came to me in a dream, you know, and that was cool. And that was a little bit of that Nashville studio magic, I feel like. So
Hopefully we'll see him today. Yeah.
Well, and I will say I got the chance to talk to him after I talked to you about the record.
Oh,
and
cool.
what he said was how easy, like he didn't feel like he was ripping you off. I wouldn't say put words into his mouth, but he's like, it's so easy to work with a band who knows who they are. And your identity as a band and your interplay as musicians, it felt like he didn't have to use a heavy hand. He just needed to be there and bear witness to it. Which just seems like a high compliment.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a heavy hand that he had, but he had some really, really good ideas, and he was very like, I think there were, yes, like Alex was just saying, he had a few really, really good ideas, more than a few, but also just his overall demeanor and like attitude he was very encouraging and very like. Positive, and it helped, especially being in sort of that like kind of hallowed environment. Like it kind of really put us at ease. Yeah, he's a funny guy.
He helped to keep us honest. Like we came to him and said we want to make a simple direct record, and then we would start doing really complex things. And he was like, "This is not what you told me."
He's like, "Why don't we cut this section
Yeah.
or whatever?" Yeah, keeping it simple.
Subtracting. I
Yeah.
love that. Well, thank you for sharing these tunes with us. Thank you for being back here. You alluded to you would come back to Nashville to make another record. So we'll just see you next time.
It would be
Yeah,
great.
we'll see you next
I would love
time.
to.
This is so long. Not goodbye. Okay.
See you later.
Thanks.